Hi, I'm Gienabou Diallo, and I'm here to welcome you to the League of Women Voters of Albany County's Get Smart Basics of 2020 Voting. I know everyone's excited about the upcoming election, and this is such an important time for us to exercise our right to vote. Whether you've been voting for a long time or this is your first time, there are things in today's program that are going to help you to become a smart voter. And we can all agree that right now, at this moment, what we need are smart voters. The purpose of this program is to provide voter education and voter awareness so you are able to make the best decision on election day. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan, so not aligned with any political party, volunteer-based organization focused on civic education and participation. As a member of the military and about to enter law school, I feel that the League's work in strengthening democracy is critically important. And we are not just a women's organization. Today's program will cover 3 ways of voting, resources to help learn about candidates, and advice from the Board of Elections, as well as some words of inspiration from our communities. So, is everybody ready to get smart? Let's do this.
There's a big election coming on November 3rd, and you may not know how to get your vote counted. It's easy. First, you want to be sure that you're eligible to vote. If you are a U.S. citizen, not on parole or in jail for a felony, 18 years or older and competent, you can vote. Next, if you aren't already registered to vote, you will have to complete a New York State voter registration form. You can submit the form online by September 21st, 2020 through any New York State DMV website. You can also mail in or deliver the completed form to your County Board of Elections until October 9th, 2020. You have 3 options to get your vote in on time: with an absentee ballot, early voting, or general election day polling. With absentee ballot voting, you'll have until October 27th to complete an application, then submit it by mail to your County Board of Elections. You can also submit in person until November 2nd. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the governor has allowed all New Yorkers to submit absentee ballots by selecting the temporary illness or physical disability option on the form, whether or not you've contracted the virus. Early voting is great for easier and safer in-person voting. You can vote from October 24th through November 1st. The Board of Elections site details the hours and locations where you can vote. Finally, there's general election day polling on November 3rd. You can go to your local polling location to cast your vote. So the choice is yours. Pick the voting option that works best for you. Make a plan and be a voter. As you get closer to Election Day, be sure to check out vote411.org to learn about what will be on your ballot, check where your polling location is, and other vital information. You can use the resources listed here if you need more information.
So now we're going to hear about how to use an absentee ballot. First, you'll meet Jennifer Wilson, Deputy Director of the League of Women Voters of New York State. And then we'll see a demonstration of what you actually do with that ballot when it comes in the mail from the Dutchess Board of County Elections. Thank you.
When it comes to absentee voting this year, there are a lot of new rules in New York State because of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. So this year, voters in New York State will be able to request an absentee ballot by marking temporary illness, and any New York State voter can go ahead and request an absentee ballot for the general election. Be sure to request your ballot before October 27th, and be sure to return your ballot back to your County Board of Elections by November 3rd. You can also request an absentee ballot in person at your County Board of Elections up until November 2nd. There's 3 different ways to apply to vote by absentee this year in New York State as well. So you can call your county board of elections, make your request over the phone. You can go the traditional route and submit a mail request by filling out a paper application and mailing that to your county board of elections, or you can apply online through the New York State online absentee voting transmission system, and that's at absenteevoting.ny.gov. There are also 3 ways to deliver your ballot this year. So of course, you can deliver your ballot by mail. Be sure that you do postmark your ballot. It is not going to come with return postage. It did for the primary. It is not for the general. We are recommending at least 3 stamps for that. You can also drop off your absentee ballot in person at your county board of elections during traditional office hours. Some office hours have changed because of COVID, so be sure to check that before you go to your county board of elections. And finally, you can drop off your ballot in person during the early voting period or on election day at any poll site in your county. There are designated areas to drop off your ballot. You won't necessarily have a traditional drop box, but there will be a separate line for people who are just going to drop off their ballots. You can also have someone drop off your ballot for you. So if you have a friend or a neighbor that you trust that is going to vote early or on election day, you can ask them to drop off your ballot for you instead of having to go to the poll site yourself. And finally, how will I know if my ballot is counted? This is a brand new policy as well. So this year, the State League was successful in settling a lawsuit that would allow voters voting by absentee to cure ballot deficiencies, essentially meaning that any issues with your signature or your witness declaration or the sealing of your affirmation or outer return envelope, the Board of Elections has 48 hours within receipt of your ballot to identify those issues and to contact you, and then you as the voter have 5 days to respond to that contact and affirm that you are a voter and that that is your ballot. They will reach out to you by email, by phone, or by traditional mail, whichever is most readily available, with the priority being towards email or phone because it is the fastest. And once you have that notice, you have 5 days to respond. So if you're not sure if you have your up-to-date phone or email on file with your county board of elections, go ahead and give them a call if you're planning to vote absentee so that you can address any signature issue or witness declaration issue, or if you don't properly seal your inner envelope to make sure that your ballot is going to be counted.
Greetings from the Dutchess County Board of Elections. Today we're going to discuss the important steps all voters should take to ensure their mail-in ballots get counted. When you receive your ballot in the mail, there will be 3 important items in the envelope. First is the ballot. Second is the oath envelope. And third is the return mail envelope. The first step is to read the instructions on your paper ballot and cast your votes by selecting the correct number of candidates in each contest and completely filling in the oval next to their name with a pen or pencil. Avoid making any stray marks, erasures, notations, or corrections on your ballot, because that could cause your vote to be rejected. If you make a mistake on your ballot, you should spoil your ballot and contact the Board of Elections for a new one. The second step is to place your ballot into the oath envelope and make sure the envelope is sealed. Do not place any other materials, such as notes, Post-its, or any foreign objects into your oath envelope. Doing so could cause your ballot to be rejected. Make sure the envelope is securely sealed. One of the most common mistakes voters make is failing to seal this oath envelope. If we receive your ballot back and it is not sealed in this oath envelope, we cannot count it. Third, you will sign and date the oath envelope. Make sure you are signing it on the correct space. You are not required to have a witness sign this envelope unless you are physically unable to sign. Try your best to sign with your official signature. You want this signature to match the one on your voter registration card as closely as possible to avoid challenges. Now your ballot is ready to mail. Place it in the return envelope and seal this outer envelope as well. Make sure that you attach the correct postage. The last day to put your ballot in the mail is the day of the election. The best way to make sure that your ballot is not late is to put it in the mail without delay. Remember, your ballot must be signed, sealed, and mailed on time in order to count.
here from the Albany County League of Women Voters, and we wanted to show you where your new location is for the Albany County Board of Elections, the old Motor Vehicle Bureau. And it's really conveniently located for anybody who's taking highways or people who are coming through town on either South Pearl or Morton, which is how I came. The address is 224 South Pearl Street, really convenient, and it's a great location. So you can come here and vote, and many other places too. In fact, the Board of Elections sent a postcard recently with other locations. This is one of 6 sites in Albany County where you can vote early in person. And at this early voting place and at other early voting locations, there will be a drop box outside the building. You don't have to go inside the building. A drop box where you can drop off absentee ballots. You don't have to mail them, and you don't even have to bring it. A friend, a relative can bring your absentee ballot to this location, put it in the drop box, and then you know that it's been received. You don't have to worry about any delays with the mail.
Now that you've seen some of our ladies who have introduced us to the county, our local county board of elections here in Albany, I'm now going to introduce you to Mary Berry and Patricia Sibilia, the president of the League of Women Voters here in Albany County, to give us some key details on what you should expect on election day when you go to the polls, either early voting or in person. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Patricia Sibilia, the president of the League of Women Voters of Albany County, and I'm here today with Mary Berry, who's been a very long time league member, and including at working at the state level, obviously with Albany County. She's been the president, she's been the director of voter services. Hi, Mary, how are you today?
I'm good, Patricia, and I'm so glad that we're having this conversation. It's so, voting is such a bedrock platform for the League of Women Voters. And here we are, and we're going to talk about how everyone can vote and vote safely.
So Mary, I know about people should be putting together a plan before going out to vote, right?
Yes.
Why don't you talk a little bit about maybe the plans? I'll let you speak on that.
All right. It's have a plan and have a backup plan. That it's really important that everybody votes this year and your vote counts. And it's in neighborhoods that have high voter turnout. They get better attention from their elected officials, and so they get better services. So it's so important that everybody votes, especially this year. So we want to make sure that you have a plan. So you think about ahead of time how you're going to do that. There's 3 ways to vote. We're going to talk about the in-person ways today. Like, do you know where you can vote? There's early voting is from November 24th till, October 24th to November 1st. And there are, in Albany County anyway, there are 6 polling sites for early voting. Now, this isn't the same for every county, so it's best to check with your county board of elections how many early voting sites there are and where they are located. But a change from for the primaries is that you can vote in any early voting site. You don't have to go to a designated one. It's entirely up to you. So part of your plan would be find out where they are. if this is the choice you're going to make, and how are you going to get there? Do you need transportation? Do you need childcare? These are all things to think of in advance. Do you have any other ideas, Patricia?
Well, I want to just make sure people are clear that the way that the County Board of Elections works is that New York State Board of Elections has the regulations, and how the county implements them may be different. So yes, in Albany County, we have 6 locations that are, anyone can go to any location. But in other counties, you just need to be careful because that may not be the case. You may be only designated voters can go to certain locations, and the hours might be very different. So the dates don't change. It's October 24th through November 1st. But really, you need to be very careful about, in your county, where those locations are and the hours and who can vote in which location. Go ahead, Mary.
But so they've made in the different counties may have different times for different days. So one day may only be in the morning, or a different day could be in the afternoon or the evening. So as Patricia said, it's very important to check with your particular county to see what plans they have set up so that you can make your plans. Another thing to do before you go to vote is to review a sample ballot, which you can get from your Board of Elections, or if you go on the league's website, vote411.org. And if you review the sample ballot and you make up your mind, you choose how you're going to vote in advance, when you then go, you can vote and depart more quickly. And that will take a little of the stress off of people standing in line or how long you're inside in the building. So that's a good thing to think about as well. And if you go to early voting, another reason, because we are experiencing the pandemic, is the earlier voting should have shorter lines, and that would make it safer for you health-wise. And the other thing is, if you have decided to use an absentee ballot and then you change your mind, you can still vote in person. But if you bring your absentee ballot with you, it's all filled out, and you get to the polling place and you find the lines are too long and you're feeling uncomfortable, each polling site will have a drop box that you can just drop your absentee ballot in and leave, and you won't be using the US mail or going, relying on some other way of getting your ballot to the Board of Elections.
And Mary, I just want to add there that even if you did mail or drop your absentee ballot and you decide you want to still vote in person, either because you've changed your mind or you just are more comfortable doing that, in New York State, you can then go to the polls and cast your ballot in person, which will count over your absentee ballot.
Exactly. That's very different from other states. Some states that you may have seen in the news that voting, some people would consider that voting twice, that you mailed in an absentee ballot, and also when in person, that would be double voting, and it's against the law in some states. Not the case in New York. New York really recognizes that maybe something happened and you changed your mind. So if you do vote by absentee ballot and in person, the vote that will count is your in-person vote, just as Patricia said. That's an important distinction of New York from other places.
And Mary, can you talk a little bit about if I need assistance for, if I'm a person who has an issue with writing or reading and whatever, what they allow?
In each polling place, there are polling workers, inspectors, who are there to help you. And this, if you haven't voted in a while, you may be surprised. In Albany County anyway, they have electronic poll books. So you will be signing, it looks like an iPad or a tablet, and you would sign your name on that instead of on the paper ledger with a pen. So that's the difference. But if you have difficulty, if you have trouble seeing, or if you have a disability, or you're unable to read or write, there are people there who will help you with those issues. And there are some, each polling place have an accessible voting machine. So, and there will be people there who help you use them if you need to. So please, if you're having any difficulties, ask for help and you'll get assistance. That's very important, yes. And I have some tips, Patricia, if you don't mind.
No, yes, please do share. They're important.
I have really been thinking about this, and I just wanted to share my tips for going to a voting place. This is how you can prepare in advance. Make sure you have a mask to bring with you. Make sure you wash your hands before and after you go. Bring hand sanitizers with you.
Yeah.
You will be asked to stand 6 feet apart, and the polling people who are working there will all have masks on and maybe gloves and maybe face shields, and it depends on each person's polling site. You should bring your own black or blue pen to use. Then you won't have to use somebody else's pen. You should maybe bring a lawn chair with you. Because of the staying 6 feet apart, you might be required to stand longer than usual. And if you have any difficulty standing for any length of time, it might make it more comfortable for you if you had a chair to sit down on. And a tip for first-time voters, if you have registered by mail, you might need to show ID. So please bring ID with you for first-time voters. And it's probably a good idea for everybody to have ID, but they shouldn't be asking you for it, but just in case. So those are my helpful tips.
I think the other helpful tip is that we expect that the early polling sites will be not very different from what goes on in them. It's not very different than voting in person on election day, except for the fact that the lines will be much shorter. And we encourage and promote people to use the early voting option if you can. So that's one thing that I know in speaking with the Board of Elections that they think is something they'd like people to be aware of more so, particularly because it is new in New York State. We've only had it for a year, and it is something that was put in place in order to expand voter engagement. So it's a good thing to use that.
And I'd also like to just tell you about the differences between early voting and voting on November 3rd, which is the general election, the day that we're all used to voting on a Tuesday, the first Tuesday in November. Where in early voting, you have your choice in Albany County of various early voting polling sites, but on election day, you have to go to your assigned location. You don't have a choice on election day. The Board of Elections assign you to a polling site. If you're unsure where that is, you can just contact them. You can ask them or go to the website vote411.org, and you fill out just some information about yourself and your name and that you're a registered voter, and the site where you are supposed to go to vote will pop up. And that's something you could do in advance just to make sure. In these times, a number of polling sites have had to move and wanting to find a place that's safer and usually larger. So it may not be the place you voted at last year. The other thing is that on election day, The hours are 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. And usually early in the morning and late at night are very busy. So if you're concerned about wanting to know when there might be a lull, it's usually around midday when there's a lull on election day. And it's important that that you can also request assistance at your general election voting site, just as you can at the early voting site. So if you have any questions or you aren't sure, or if you have trouble seeing or reading, they are there to help you.
And what about, Mary? Should we share with people the phone numbers you can call if you're really feeling like you're not sure about what's going on at the polling site, if you're being challenged or something of that sort?
Absolutely. And that's another one of my tips that I forgot to tell you already, is to have on your speed dial, if you have a cell phone, put these two numbers on your speed dial. One is the Attorney General's office, and that number is 800-771-7755. And a different one would be the New York State Board of Elections is 800-367-8683. So if you have any questions, if you don't think you're being treated properly, if you're having trouble with one of the machines and you don't think it worked right for you, please call them. They're standing by with banks of people to answer your questions on election day.
And early voting too. Yes.
Yes.
I think we've covered quite a bit, Mary. As poll inspectors, both you and I, we know the processes that go on at the polls. So it's always an interesting thing to watch our democracy in action from both sides of the table.
It's wonderful. And we're so happy that there's been some changes made, and everything should be more helpful to voters, to have more people be able to vote. And I'm so happy to share this information with you and have a conversation with Patricia so we can do that.
And likewise, Mary, thank you so much for taking the time with us. We'll see you soon.
All right, bye-bye.
Hi, it's Patricia. I'm back again live this time. And I'm hoping that so far you're finding this program very interesting. Our next segment, I'm going to talk about the Board of Elections and its role in the process. In New York State, there are regulations, and each county Board of Elections implements the processes to meet those regulations in their own individual way. So there could be variations in the process from county to county. Each county Board of Elections has two commissioners, one from each of the two major political parties. Each political party nominates their commissioner, and then they're approved by the county legislature or the county Board of Supervisors. All the processes they do are overseen by both parties. And we see this again with in-person voting, where the people who work the polls, as you saw Mary and I do, called election inspectors, are representatives from both parties. And I apologize. Okay, this year things have been very challenging for the Board of Elections. They have had to implement new processes for COVID and the recent election reforms passed by the state, while also dealing with volumes, and I mean volumes, of absentee ballots which require manual processing. One last minute change mentioned earlier by our league ladies were the drop boxes at early voting sites and election day poll sites. Due to short supply and the short timeline, Albany County drop boxes will not be outside the sites as it was mentioned, we found out later, but right inside, right near the entrance. So again, they're scrambling and things have really changed very quickly and they're trying to keep up. Now we're about to see an interview between Mercedes Williams, a Spectrum News reporter, and Albany County Board of Elections Commissioner, Rachel Bledi. Let's roll the video.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mercedes Williams, a reporter and anchor with Spectrum News, and I'm here to introduce you to the Get Smart 2020 voting program that has been put on by the League of Women Voters of Albany and the Albany Public County Library. I'm joined by Rachel Bledi, and she has a lot to do with the elections. I'm just going to let her go ahead and explain how her involvement works here in the county.
So I am the Republican Elections Commissioner for Albany County. And in addition to that, I serve on the United States Election Assistance Commission Standards Board, where we set the voluntary guidelines for programming, machine software, and then even the general way to conduct elections across the nation.
So a very comprehensive thing that you do here in Albany. So let's jump right in. Voting is very, very important, and we want to equip people that go to the polls with all the information and the knowledge that they can have so that they can be able to vote securely, safely, and on deadline and everything like that. So let's just jump into the first question. Because of COVID-19, what are voters to expect when they go to the polling places this year?
Great. So in Albany County, we're going to be following CDC guidelines for election places for polling sites. And generally, that includes what you see in other businesses, in other municipalities, where the general requirement is, of course, for every voter to wear a mask. And in addition to the voters, obviously the poll inspectors who work in the polling place have to wear a mask as well. They are also provided with shields if they choose to use them. And in addition to that, we'll have disinfecting stations for voters to use, as well as poll inspectors. And we are going to limit the amount of voters that we have at each poll site. And we're going to require them to maintain social distancing guidelines. And if the line gets longer, which we don't really anticipate because we have 9 days of early voting, we also have many voters who applied for absentee ballots, and we also have election day voting. But if the line does get a little bit busy, then we're going to ask people to wait outside until we can allow for proper social distancing.
It's great that you talk about absentee ballots. It's been a worry among a lot of voters this year. How has the Board of Elections made sure that the integrity of counting those ballots are correct?
Well, we do have processes in place to ensure that we have ballot security and voter security, okay? So that means that we have barcodes that we use to track the voters' absentee ballots. And then when we go to actually canvass the absentees, in New York State, it's a very transparent process. So we allow the public and the candidates involved in those particular races to come in and view the canvassing process. And every voter who has applied for an absentee ballot, we have a ballot that corresponds to that voter's name, and we have to ensure that the ballot is received into the system. And then once we go to actually canvass the ballots, because it's a very transparent process, people can view that it is done in a bipartisan manner, which means both Democrats and Republicans sit at a table and allow for both sides to inspect the ballot to ensure that they weren't tampered with. And sometimes, on occasion, they do receive objections, and then we have to, make a decision on the ballot, and sometimes it does go to court. However, for the most part, we are a very transparent process, and we do get to ensure ballot security in that respect.
So voters can kind of rest at ease with this process. Can you talk to me a little bit about drop boxes, just in case people don't want to actually go into the physical station or don't want to do absentee ballot voting?
Yeah, so the drop boxes are actually for voters to drop off their absentee ballots in a contactless manner, which means that they have the ability to either come to our office right now, which is located at 260 South Pearl Street. And up until early voting begins, at that point, they can drop off their absentee ballots at an early voting location. We have 6 of them around the county, and they can see all 6 right on our website at albanycounty.com/vote. And on election day, they can drop off their absentee ballot at a drop box as well. So each poll site in Albany County, including our office now, will have a drop box whereby a voter can just walk in, not have any contact with any individual, and it's COVID safe, and they could just drop their absentee ballot into that box. And those boxes will have secure locks on them that are controlled in a bipartisan manner by both the Democrat and Republican.
And we've already seen there's been a huge increase in absentee ballot voting. Already, lots of them have been cast. What do you predict will be the outcome of knowing this election this year? Will it be within the day, the week?
It's a very unusual circumstance. It's unprecedented. We've never seen it before. It is exciting because we do see very high voter engagement. And also voters are excited about this process because it's a very different way of voting. And I think in general, they're excited about the presidential election and voicing their opinion. This year, thus far in Albany County, we have around 30,000 absentee ballot applications that have already been received in. So we do anticipate a very high volume of absentee ballots that will be counted, making that part of the process of canvassing absentees even garnering even greater amount of scrutiny. And of course, we are a transparent process, like indicated before, so it will be done in a public manner. However, people can be rest assured that their vote are not, the way they voted on those ballots are not disclosed, because eventually the envelope that the voter has returned gets separated from the ballot itself, at which point no one can discern as to who voted that particular ballot.
When people receive their absentee ballot, there's a two-step process. Can you talk to us about that a little bit?
Yeah. So voters can place their ballot inside an envelope that they have to sign, and that envelope must be returned with the ballot. That signature must be placed on that ballot. If they choose to mail it back, they can place it into a mailing envelope that's provided to them, or they can just drop off the signed ballot envelope with the ballot inside of it at any drop-off location, which will be available at any poll site on Election Day on November 3rd, or at any one of our early voting poll sites, which will begin on October 24th and end at the period of November 1st, which is the Sunday before Election Day. That Monday is a blackout period, so there is no voting on the day before Election Day. Or today, they can actually drop off that ballot inside that signed envelope at our office located at 260 South Pearl Street in Albany.
Okay. Is there anything else that we need to know as voters, in particular for Albany County, New York State, that I missed?
Make sure you vote. Exercise your right to vote. This is a very important election. This gives you the opportunity to voice your opinion in a very important election. And of course, please wear your mask at the poll site.
So on the issues of curing the ballot, Rachel, what are some of the timelines and what are some of the things that people need to be looking out for, and contact information and things of that nature?
So this year, the governor's executive order allows you to cure any defect on an absentee ballot, thereby further guaranteeing that your absentee ballot and your vote will be counted. So any absentee ballot that we receive prior to Election Day, which is November 3rd, we will notify the voter, whether it's email or phone or snail mail, okay, that they can cure their flaw on their absentee ballot, which means that anyone who sends in an absentee ballot that gets returned to us and has some sort of defect to it, which is, for example, not signing the envelope that you have to seal your ballot in, we can then mail you a letter stating that you can have the ability to cure that defect. So anything received before November 2nd that has a defect to it, has a cure date of November 3rd, and we will send you a letter informing you of how to cure that defect. Anything received on or after November 3rd, which is Election Day, you will have 5 days to cure that defect. And of course, we will be notifying you of that defect. But this is where it's very important for voters to provide an email address or a phone number so that we can contact them without having to use snail mail, of course, so that they can ensure that their defect is cured in a timely manner and that their vote is counted.
Great. Yes, because I was just going to ask you about that. If they only have one form of information or contact on there, they should be providing more than that with the cell phone numbers, whatever best way they can reach out.
Absolutely. Yep. Any information you provide to us in terms of contact information, email or phone number is extremely helpful in having us communicate with you in case we perceive a problem with your absentee ballot envelope. Now, what's a curable flaw? Any absentee ballot envelope that is not signed, or if someone mixed up their absentee ballot envelope with their spouse or someone that lives with them in their home, and it's very clear to us that that's what occurred, they can cure that defect. We will notify them, and they have until November 3rd in order to cure that defect, okay? Any absentee ballot, and we will send them notification, so we will walk them through that process. So any absentee ballot that's received on or after November 3rd and is clearly flawed, because once again, it's missing a signature or they signed someone else's envelope and within their home, we will notify them of that defect, whether again be email or phone or snail mail, and they will have 5 days from the date of the notification to cure that defect. And this will help better ensure that every vote is counted.
And that's why it's so important for voters to provide you with all forms of information, whether it be their cell phone, their email, their mailing address, and where can they go to do that to make sure that if there's any discrepancies with their ballots, they can be notified.
Right, so you can always call our office to update your voting record, which is 518-487-5060, or you can send us an email at boardofelections@albanycounty.com, and this way we will have your information. So help us help you get your vote counted by providing us with the information that we need to better communicate with you as a voter and help you cast your vote properly. And if anyone has any question, of course, they can always call our office at 518-487-5060. We also have a ton of information located on our website, which is albanycounty.com/vote. And on our website, you can actually look up your voting location based on your address. And you can also view a sample ballot. You can also apply for an absentee ballot.
Okay, thank you, Rachel, for joining us for this segment of the Get Smart Voting program. And remember, everyone out there, to go out and vote.
Hi, now we're on to our next segment. We're going to be looking at various tools to help you get smart. We have slides we'll walk through, but don't worry, all this information is available on the League of Women Voters Albany County's website on our voter page. So let's take a look at those slides. Okay, this first slide we're looking at actually is giving you some general information about voting. So Vote 411, I won't get into too much because that actually we'll see a video on that at the end of this. So the big thing to know there is that this is a national site, but it's actually maintained by all of the different leagues. So for the president, the stuff is done at the national level. For state offices, a lot of it's done at the state level, but the local leagues actually reach out to every candidate. We set up all of the elections, all of the races that are for an election, and we contact each of the candidates and we ask them to basically submit answers to us, and we have them speak in their own words. We think this is particularly important in local years where you don't get a lot of coverage about what the candidate is about. So not for this year, but look for it for next year. But it's good as well this year for a lot of other stuff, so please do use it. The second site that I have listed here is actually our Albany County's League of Women Voters website. That's where I said you'll find everything in these slides there. But I want to point out a few things that I think are pretty important. The first is a first vote brochure. So if this is your first time voting, it's a good place to go look and read through that so you can feel comfortable going in for the first time to vote. There's also the Albany County Voters Guide. So again, voting is specific county by county, so this will help you. And what's really interesting are the New York State Right to Vote brochures, because here we have the specifics of how particular individuals can vote and their rights. So homeless individuals, individuals with disabilities, college students who get to really choose between whether they want to vote where they're going to school or to absentee ballot from their hometown. And the one that is actually, for me, one of the most critical is this: individuals with criminal convictions or detained in jail or prison. This particular one, when we're out canvassing and we're talking to people and they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't vote," we've had so much turnaround and smiles come when we say, "Yes, you can." It's only been several years since people who have felonies, have actually convicted felonies and who served their time, now are able to vote. We also, as I said, have all the links to the trusted reference points that we have here. You always want to visit the Albany County Board of Elections. Again, if you live in Albany County, you must visit your own one if you are in another county, because that's where you're going to get the very specifics of what's going on for you. So it gives for us, for instance, the early voting sites and the time. So the dates always stay the same, as you already heard us say, but the times do vary, as well as the locations. And you can always find who's on your ballot, but also particularly you can see who your representatives are. And on the next slide, is information that will let you get more in depth. So we first look at fact check, which is, in this day and age, is very important because it checks the accuracy of the political ads and the candidate allegations. So we all want to know, is what we're hearing true or not true? So this will really help with that. Vote Smart, I'm not going to give you too much on because we're going to see an in-depth video on it, but let's just say that it really is, for me, one of the key sites I use. The next couple, the Federal Elections Commission and Open Secrets, these are really going to really give you a lot of information about money in politics, as well as Vote Smart does, but these get as well into more detail. So these will help you to really look at who's paying the candidates to run. Polling Report really is an interesting site. It gives you a lot of independent, nonpartisan, as it says, resources on the trends in public opinion. I think it's an interesting site. You should try visiting it. And the last one, Open Book New York, is more really about your government than it is voting. It really tells you information, and this is, again, New York State only. It tells you a lot about what's going on in your local government in terms of the reporting they need to do to the state, as well as pretty much their spending and so forth. So very interesting sites. They're all pretty much available on our website. On the next slide, we basically are saying here, and you already heard us say this, Mary Berry and I, in our conversations, if you do have issues on election day, then you want to really reach out for help. We don't want there to be any problems. So you have the New York State Attorney General, as well as the New York State Board of Elections. So feel free to reach out if you have any issues with them. And now we'll be watching two videos. The first one from Jennifer Wilson from our state office, who will be walking us through Vote 411, and followed by the video on Vote Smart, which I think will wow you when you learn how much information is available to you. Let's roll the videos.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Wilson with the League of Women Voters of New York State, and today I'm going to be showing you our electronic ballot guide, vote411.org. Vote411.org is a one-stop shop for everything related to voting. You can check your registration status, you can find information about upcoming elections, find your election day and early voting poll sites, and find information about all of the candidates running in the upcoming elections just by typing in your address. And today I'm going to show you what exactly Vote 411 looks like and how to use it so that you can be ready to vote in the 2020 election. So I'm going to share my screen and show you all vote411.org. So this is what it looks like on a desktop. Vote 411 is also compatible with Android and Apple, so you can very easily open this up on your cell phone. And along the top here, we have options for different things that you can actually do on Vote 411, registering to vote, checking your voter registration status, and also finding out who's on your ballot. Now, something to note is that here in New York State, the only way to register online is through the DMV website right now, and the deadline to to do that is Friday, or was Friday, October 9th. So I'm going to go ahead and find out who's on my ballot. So a second screen will pop up and ask me my street address, and I'm going to use the State League's office address for this. So I just put the address, the city, the state, and the zip code and hit submit. And from there, it will ask me to, for Albany, pick what city I'm in, because there's also some city races happening. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the city of Albany. And there's also the town of Knox and the town of Westerlo. And depending on where you are, what county you are in the state, you might not get asked that question. But I'm going to go to my races, and there's also the option to select Spanish as well. Vote for One is now also available in Spanish. But I'm going to go ahead and click English and go to my races. And from here, I can see all of the races that are going to be on my ballot, and I can click through and see each of the candidates for the races as well. So I'm going to go ahead and select the US President. I've got the description at the top telling me about what this office does, their terms, their salary, and all kinds of information about the office itself, also in Spanish as well. And down here, we have our candidates. And I can actually click and compare the candidates side by side. So I'm going to click Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And as I scroll down, I can see all kinds of information about the candidate. And it looks like Donald Trump has not responded, but Joe Biden has. But that's okay, because I can go through and look at other candidates too. I can compare to Howie Hawkins or Joe Jorgensen. And it looks like we don't have responses for these ones either, interestingly. Normally we do. So let's go ahead and skip to our next race. We'll see who is running in our assembly district. And we've got Sam Fine running, and John McDonald, and Petros Papaglano. And we ask candidates to respond on their own, so we don't always get responses. But even if we don't, we usually have links to their different social media pages, so you can go ahead and look them up. But we do have responses for both of these. And I can also select these candidates as I go through and print this out after the fact. And I can go through all of the different races on here, the district attorney race, the congressional race for out here, the chief city auditor, and who else do we have? I'm sorry, that was the Senate race and the chief city auditor. So we have all kinds of different candidates on here. And I can also go ahead and see, I can change the address. I can see all of the races for my state, all of the candidates for my state. And I can go ahead and go to New York State itself and find even more information. So here on the New York State page, we've got information about the absentee ballot process, about early voting, and about the new drop box option. We've also got all of the different deadlines here as well that voters need to know. Finding your polling place, registering to vote, and just any kind of information you would want to know, you can find it here on Vote 411. So if you have any questions about the candidates running in New York State in elections for your district, visit vote411.org to get ready, get educated, and get out and vote in 2020.
Imagine straightforward, reliable facts about any state or national politician on any issue of concern to you. Votesmart.org. It is perhaps the most hopeful reality in politics today. Hundreds of conservatives and liberals putting their differences aside and joining together to protect the most essential component of our democracy, a citizen's right to the truth about the people they elected or those seeking to replace them. It's what U.S. News and World Report said would make the founders weep with joy. Thousands of hours of detailed research, all so that you can finally, simply, and instantly get the facts. I Spy. Take a magnifying glass and be able to instantly examine any politician's files. Every biographical detail, every key vote and easy to understand terms, every issue position, every public comment on key topics, every special interest rating, every top campaign contributor. For example, just pick a category such as ratings and review every special interest rating that exists on the politician you selected. All there for you at votesmart.org. Bull, VoteSmart's newest tool, gives major political figures the horns. It marks whenever a politician's comments have been proven false by reputable fact-checking organizations. Political Galaxy navigates through the universe of facts. Name any politician, select any issue, and instantly arrive at every fact related to that person on that issue. For example, pick votes, and you are instantly transported to every key vote made on that issue in easy-to-understand terms. Find your political soulmate with Vote Easy. Simply enter your zip code and your candidates will appear. Then state your position on any of a dozen of the most pressing issues facing our nation. And watch as each candidate's yard sign moves toward you, in agreement, or away depending on their public records. Simply check on the sign to find out what facts made their sign move forward or back. Put it to the test yourself. On Point is Vote Smart on smartphones. Want to know how your politicians relate to today's hot topics? Click the issue you're interested in, and the facts you need are at your fingertips, curated just for you. Check out the app users are saying is a must-have, not just for wonks. Want more? Simply track any politician of interest to you with My Vote Smart. Every time that politician makes a public statement, votes, or receives a new rating on an issue, you will get a daily email update. No computer? No problem. Just call our toll-free research hotline, and your own personal researcher will look up anything you want to know about any politician running for office, whether it's state, regional, or national. Google, Bing, Yahoo, even the Department of Defense and hundreds of news organizations use VoteSmart to power the truth in their own reporting to their users and to our overseas troops.
We are serious people on a very serious mission. It is the most critical dilemma of our time. How do you get the facts about these candidates that so easily manipulate us emotionally instead of informing us intellectually? We need the help of every thinking American. Come join us, volunteer. If you can't volunteer, contribute to those who can. And if you can do neither, at least use us to defend your right to the facts.
Votesmart.org, because facts matter.
Wow, what a great tool. I actually just downloaded it on my phone. So now that we've learned about the 3 ways to vote, it's important that we exercise our right to vote and not take it for granted. This is about our future. Your vote matters. It's important to recognize that it matters because in your national and your local elections, this is where many of the decisions that impact you are made. And for example, you have your schools, you have your roads, police, clean water. Your vote is your voice. If you want to make a change, you have to vote. If you want a say in your government, you have to vote. And as we like to say in the league, democracy is not a spectator sport. So in closing, we hope you found this segment informative and it's given you some momentum. So now that you are a smart voter, make sure you get out the vote, you create a plan, whether you'll vote early, in person, or absentee. Let's go out and make a change. And now we're going to hear from some of our members in the community.
Hey, what's up? I'm DJ TGIF, and today I want to talk to you guys about voting. As you all know, we have a very big election coming up on November 3rd, so I want to ask of you, implore you, and encourage you to take part in that political process. In New York State, you have the opportunity to vote early, so from October 24th to November 1st, you can take part in early voting. But the big day is November 3rd. So usually I tell y'all to catch me at the club, but on Super Tuesday, y'all can catch me at these polls.
Peace, family. It's James Mitchells from Young Futures Financial Literacy Art and Education Program. I'm touching bases today to really stress the importance of getting out to vote. Previously in the past, I did not always have this interest and this level of excitement about it, but realizing how important it is to be impactful locally in our community by our vote is really, really stretching the word and really, really going to make a difference in our community if we're next to, around, and voting for the people that's concerned with us.
Hi, my name is Sergio Adams. I wanted to take this opportunity to speak to new young voters out there. I know, we hear it all the time. This election is the most important election that we will vote in. And actually, it's true. This election coming up is going to change everything for us. This is not only going to impact us, not only impact our parents, not only impact our grandparents, but this will impact our kids. This election, there's a lot riding on the line. In order to win and secure this election, we need young people to turn out and vote in numbers. We need numbers. We need you to get up and go out to vote. Please, if you're going to vote early, voting early is from October 24th to November 1st. If you're planning to vote by mail, please make sure that you fill out your absentee ballot and return it before the deadline.
Hello, my name is Fonda Ng of the Beta Pi Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. My name is Donovan King, part of the Iota Kappa Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. We're here today to talk about voting. Voting is one of our most important civil rights and it shouldn't be taken for granted. As we work to get everyone registered by October 10th, we really implore everyone to get out and vote November 3rd. In New York State, you have the opportunity to vote from October 24th to November 1st. That way you get to vote early, vote safely, and we keep our community safe from the COVID-19 pandemic. So let's get out and vote because a voteless people is a hopeless people.
You heard it from the alphas, okay? Remember, a voteless people is a hopeless people. Now, let's hear some words of inspiration from Reverend Dr. Roxanne Booth.
My name is Reverend Dr. Roxanne Jones Booth, and I am the co-pastor of the Riverview Missionary Baptist Church in Coeymans Landing. I am about to recite for you a poem that was written first by a pastor in South Africa. And then it was adapted for Americans in 2020. This poem is in the pattern of the Beatitudes, otherwise known as the Sermon on the Mount. And seeing the multitudes, he went up to the stage, and when he was set on the podium, his countrymen and women came to him. He opened his mouth and taught them, saying, "Blessed are they that vote, for their personal vote will make a difference. Blessed are the voters with pure hearts who educate and encourage voters with apathy and disillusionment to register and vote, for they shall see a voter turnout on election day. Blessed are the voters who are not intimidated by the political machinery, money, and candidate supporters and vote their conscience, for they shall inherit the fruits of democracy. Blessed are they that vote for the candidate who stands for their rights and values, for they shall receive change in their lives. Blessed are the voters that mourn for better housing, education, and safer and secure neighborhoods, for they shall be comforted by the winning candidate. Blessed are the voters who are merciful to candidates who did wrong in the past and who have acknowledged and apologized for those mistakes, for they, the voters, shall obtain mercy. Blessed are they that hunger after free and fair elections, for they shall inherit prosperity and peace in the land. Blessed are the peacemakers during the campaign and on election day, for they shall be called patriotic citizens. Blessed are the voters who are persecuted for voting according to their conscience, for theirs is the power within. Blessed are the voters who are insulted, called all sorts of names, and wicked things falsely when they vote against the corrupt establishment. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, For great is your reward in the strength of democracy in the land. Remember that there were citizens before you who were persecuted for standing up for human and civil rights. You are the salt of the city, the state, the country. But if you do not vote, you will lose your power. How will your power change the status quo if you don't vote? You are the light of the world of democracy, the country that is a superpower. Praise the smooth transition of government and give glory to the Father and Mother on earth and in heaven. Thank you.
Well, we certainly hope that you found this evening's program informative. I have one more note on the importance of voting. I want you to remember that neighborhoods with high voter turnout get more attention and better services from their elected officials because those officials know that the power of people can unseat them if they don't. So let's make the turnout this year break all the records. As you know, 2020 has been a unique year in many ways, and it also is the celebration of the 100th anniversary of women getting the right to vote. Gienabou, do you know how hard that fight was?
Yes, Patricia. As a Black woman, I definitely recognize that my right to vote is because that many people who have risked their lives for suffrage. Without women and without people of color who have fought for suffrage, many of our rights and protections that we take for granted today would not exist. I am definitely honored to be part of the league and definitely will continue to fight despite voter suppression tactics and to make voting accessible for all people. So make sure you get out and you vote.
We are so heartened by all the people who are showing up at the polls to vote early, standing on long lines all around the country to exercise their right to vote. We know the ability to vote can be challenging in certain states, and the league will always fight against voter suppression. It's a patriotic act to exercise this important right. I'd like to take a moment to let you know that this program, if you'd like it and you want to see it again or share it with others, it will be available on our YouTube channel. We want to thank everyone who has made this possible, including all of our many supporting partners, the Albany Public Library for co-sponsoring this with us, and particular Tor Loney from the Howe branch, who truly made this all possible. Thank you, Tor.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Make sure you get out and vote. Get out and vote. Woo!
Yeah, go.